Hello everybody, my name is Anthony Metzger. I'm a winemaker and a sommelier. Here at Wines of the World, I Skype and record interviews with winemakers from around the world. On today's episode of Wines of the World, I am joined by Marin, a winemaker from California, but she's joining me live from Australia, where she has just recently arrived to work a harvest. So together, let's find out what it's like to travel on the opposite side of the planet to make wine. Marin, thank you for joining us on Wines of the World. Appreciate you tuning in today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you're a traveling winemaker. You're right now in Australia.
Yeah, it was just something that I really couldn't turn down, and the chance to travel. I think it's really important to kind of go outside of, what's in your backyard.
Yeah, leave your comfort zone and do a little exploring. Nice. Yeah, because you're from Southern California, but have you made wine in any other countries other than Australia?
So this is my first international harvest.
Okay.
I've done another harvest in the state of Oregon.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And how are you finding it showing up essentially kind of on the other side of the planet Earth and by yourself, not knowing many people, and just kind of hopping into this kind of completely new environment? What is that? How do you deal with that? What is it like to just show up in a country that you've never been to before and make wine?
Yeah, so it's definitely a little nerve-wracking before, it is, really hard to, get to know people, I feel a little isolated out here.
Yeah.
There's not much just besides, vineyards and cattle ranches.
Sure.
Almost like the same back home.
I've worked in Germany and France as a winemaker, a traveling winemaker, kind of like what you're doing right now. When I was in France, there was... at the winery I was at, it was kind of a little village, and there would be a marathon that actually started in one part of Bordeaux and ended in the completely other side of it. And along this path in which they ran this marathon, each winery or the chateaus would set up these big booths out front of their place, and they would serve wine in a little plastic cup in the form of a shot. And people would actually, they'd actually dress up as Halloween, the craziest costumes you can come up with, run this marathon, and drink wine while you're running it from all these different places. Really cool, because I served at it and stuff. I've never seen anything like it before, all the costumes. And it really kind of showed how culture tied in with the wine, especially in that region. I'm wondering, how does wine or the wine tie in with the culture down there in Australia? I know you haven't been there a super long time, but so far from what you've seen.
I've been into town a few times, and we went to the local pub, and It's interesting to see because it is such a small town, I wasn't expecting a whole lot of people to be out and about. Sure. But a lot of people were drinking wine, were drinking beer. There was a bachelorette party.
Okay.
So it's interesting to see kind of the different influx of people that are, kind of around. But, from, just looking out, it's a very rural community.
So in Australia, what's kind of the unique dish that you've experienced there so far, as far food-wise, and what kind of wine do you drink with that?
They have what they call, dim sims. Okay. Which is basically, they call it mincemeat. I'm not really sure what kind of meat it is, but it's ground up. Probably the size of a sausage bite. Sure. And then it's deep fried in, I don't know, some kind of beer batter, potato batter. Okay. I don't know. And it's really good. Yeah. And they have a lot of mincemeat. So they have meat pies. So almost like a pot pie in the States, but not really something along those lines.
So an Australian pot pie with some minced mystery meat.
Yeah, basically.
So that pot pie, what kind of wine did you drink with when you were eating that?
We actually had a rosé with it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, which was really good. So, like, it's really hot here, so something, like whites or reds, we've been drinking a lot of those.
Yeah, sure.
And actually, kind of, because the meat, like, it wasn't super heavy, and, something a little salty, kind of the rosé complemented it, adds some acidity to it. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting food culture here because Australia, they get so many different people from around the world here that they don't typically have, like their own cuisine, I guess, per se. Just some little things, but it's mostly like a fusion of cultures and food here.
Yeah, I was going to say more influenced by the surrounding cultures because they're right there with Asia is like right above them.
Yeah. I always forget how close Asia is. And Simon, who grew up here in Australia, was like, yeah, everybody after, college or high school, they go to the Philippines or Thailand. That's just like a normal trip that they would do.
Sort of like kids go to Cancun or go to...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So what is your go-to wine? What's kind of like your favorite wine that you like to drink when you're going to go to the grocery store or to the liquor store and buy a bottle of wine?
So probably like a varietal I would recognize. It's always hard because, depending on what I'm cooking, what the weather's like, what I'm going to be, what I actually feel like, kind of depicts, wines that I pick.
That actually leads into my next question. I was going to ask you this scenario I get asked quite often by people that like wine, enjoy wine, are kind of curious about wine, kind of afraid of it, but they go into a wine shop and you walk in there and it's overwhelming. Even for me, being in the wine world, I walk in and sometimes I'm overwhelmed. So I can only imagine for these people who don't know much about it. So they walk in, there's 1,000 different labels in this wine shop, 1,000 different bottles. How do they know what kind of wine to pick out? Because I've had a friend who actually went into a wine shop, picked out a bottle randomly because it looked cool or kind of stood out. Yeah. And they brought it home and they were disappointed in it. And then that kind of deterred them from going back and buying a bottle of wine. They kind of went and got a beer instead because they know they can deal with that. So what would you recommend to somebody who wants to walk into a wine shop and pick something out that they're gonna like? What do you think? What do you say in that situation?
Yeah. So I'm always good about trying to ask for help.
Okay.
Hopefully at the wine shop that you go to, that the person working would be knowledgeable. And me, I always try to look at things, maybe from a scientific approach. If there's more like wine facts on the label, then maybe this is actually a good wine. So sometimes it is just doing a little bit of detective work, or if you have your phone, maybe Google, kind of the winery or the wine
website or something. They say.
Yeah, last resort.
So another scenario for you. Say it's, the middle of summer. It's the evening. You're having a bonfire. You're with some friends. You're making s'mores. Kind of a dessert-style sweet treat. What kind of wine are you going to have with s'mores around the campfire?
I would probably maybe even go with like a Prosecco or something, light, good acidity. Probably not something too sweet.
Sure.
But rosé, during summertime, you kind of want something refreshing and cooler. And maybe if you're having dinner, then go with a red. But I think the weather here definitely plays a role in what kind of wine you want to drink.
Sure.
For me, after working, 10, 12-hour day, I don't want something super heavy.
Yeah.
But if I'm just hanging out with friends, of course, I'd probably try to have multiple bottles, just so we each have a taste of different things, try different things. But maybe start out with a sparkling.
I was going to ask you, what is it that you love about winemaking most? Why do you love being a winemaker? Why are you willing to travel to the opposite side of the planet by yourself and make wine? What is it that you love about it so much?
At first I thought, oh yeah, that's an easy question. But I don't know, it's just something about, you're making something. There's some artistry behind it, and really seeing the fruits of your labor turn into something that tastes so good.
Yeah.
I've been getting more into like the food culture and cooking, I think because of it, and just really trying to appreciate, what your taste buds and like satisfying, your hunger and thirst, and that there are just things out there in the world that taste so good, and trying to experience it all, and not just ordering, like the same thing from the menu every time, or picking the same wine when you go to the store.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, it's a chance to travel as well. I've never really traveled, outside of the U.S. very much, and this is kind of like my first overseas trip, my first time to Australia, and it's just one of those dreams to go see the world, and if I can kind of piggyback, working at the same time, then it's a really
It's a good excuse to travel and get out.
Yeah, and just the different people you get to meet, and I love my coworkers in this area, and it's just an experience that I think is something that's just worth it all.
So if you could drink a bottle of wine with anybody on earth, who would you want to drink a bottle of wine with?
This is another tough question. Just because I don't really follow celebrities. My heroes are the winemakers that I work with.
Really?
But if I was to pick somebody, I don't know, I honestly would say my family and friends and my boyfriend back home.
Nice.
It is really hard to be away from them.
Sure.
And, I will see them, in another 2 months or so or whatever.
Yeah.
But, if I could pick anybody to have a bottle of wine with, it would be them.
Teleport back home for one Friday night.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that would be so nice just to get to see my family and friends again.
That'd be cool. Alrighty, well, perfect. I think that wraps it up for the questions.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Anthony. It's fun.
Thank you, and have a good time in Australia. It goes quick. I know you want to get back home to your family and friends, but enjoy it while you're there, because I'm sure it goes quick, and once it's done, it's done. So enjoy your time, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you. Yep, take care.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Wines of the World. Make sure you check in next week, as I will be interviewing another winemaker. If you have any questions that you would like me to ask a winemaker during any of my interviews, just reach out to me through my social media accounts, which you can find on my website, winesoftheworld.info. Be sure to check my website tomorrow and every single day of this week, as I will be releasing some really fun, interesting wine stories. Thank you, and please be sure to subscribe.